Hey, this is primarily Goblin deck, but I splashed a bit of blue in it, so they're all M13 cards. So we'll start with our blues, and these are 1-drops. It's just an unsummon, which, return target creature to hand for a 1-drop isn't bad. And a dispel, counter target instant spell, it's handy. Okay, our 2-drops in blue, 1 second. We have Ghostly Touch, and that's just an enchantment that when that creature attacks, you can tap or untap a permanent. We have 2 negates, just the blue side of it's primarily defensive, so counter spells and stuff. We have Essence Scatter, which again, counter target spell. Cyclonic Rift, which returns target non-land permanent I don't control to its owner's hand, and I can overload it for 7 mana, meaning all of his non-land permanents go to his hand. And then 2 Fog Banks, which are pretty much undying unless they have a spell to kill them. They can't die through combat damage and they're a defender that's flying. Our 3-drops, I chose Latch Seeker, which is just a 3/1 unblockable creature. And our 4-drops, we have 2 Tricks of the Trade, gives it instant enchantment that gives the creature +2 and is unblockable. Sleep, which taps all the opponent's creatures, and they don't untap on his next untap step. We have Into the Void, which return up to 2 target creatures to their owner hands. And Rewind, which is just a 4 mana counter target spell on untap 4 land. So it's pretty much countering a target spell for nothing. Okay, so I'll move on to the red stuff now. For 1-drops, I put in 3 Goblin Arsonists, just because it's in primarily aggro deck and they're goblins. And the goblin kind of aspect makes the deck better when we get into, I think it's a 4-drop. So yeah, it's just a 1/1 for 1 mana, but when it dies it deals 1 damage to the opponent. Our 2-drop, we have Scalding Devil, which is a 1/1 for 2 mana, but you can pay 3 mana and it deals 1 damage to the target opponent directly. Alright, next we have the 3 mana. I put in 1 Flame of the Fireband. It's just a good card for 3 mana, deals 3 damage, and divided how I choose among creatures and players. Then I have Gutter Snipe, which is a good card. Just whenever I cast an instant or sorcery spell, Gutter Snipe deals 2 damage to my opponent. Arms Dealer, it's a goblin, so it will also work for my later tactics that I'll get further into later in the video. But also for 2 mana I can sacrifice it and deal 4 damage to a target creature, so good if they've got a semi-big creature out. Then Volcanic Geyser, I put it in the 3-drop because you're not really going to just use it with 2 because then it doesn't deal any damage. But it's just, it could 2 and up, it just deals as much as X's, which is extra mana that you tap to target creature or player. Then 2 Mog Flunkies, and they can't attack or block alone, but they're good cards because they're 3/3s for 2 mana. That should have been in the 2 mana pile. We have the Rummaging Goblin. It's a goblin, so it works with the later tactic, which I'll get into. But its tap ability's fairly good if you don't have anything you want to do this turn with your hand. Tap, discard a card, pick up another card. We have 3 Krankos commands. This kind of gets into the tactic a bit of having a lot of creatures to soak up damage with tokens. You get to put 2 1/1 red goblin tokens on for 2 mana. That should have been in the 2 mana pile. yeah, for 2 mana it's not too bad. Right, then we have 4 Searing Spears, 3 damage to target creature or player. It's just a bit of direct damage, so I don't have any creatures out, you know. Okay, the 4 mana, Firewing Phoenix. It's not Goblin, so it doesn't work with the tactic of soaking up damage or overwhelming the opponent. But it's a 4/2 for 4 mana, not too bad. And for 4 mana, 3 of it being red, I can just regenerate it, which is pretty good. This is the card, I'll save this until the end. 2 Blade Tuskabors. They're unblockable creatures, so... Well, they're not unblockable, but they've got Intimidate, so as long as I'm playing someone that doesn't have that isn't playing red, it's pretty good. 3 Goblin Battle Jesters, because for 4 mana, 2/2, it's not too bad, but its ability is quite good. Whenever you cast a red spell, target creature can't block. If I've got 3 of them out and I cast 1, 3 target creatures can't block that turn. So it's pretty good. Right, this is the mythic that I put. Is it a mythic? It's not a mythic, I don't think. It's a foil. Krenko Mob Boss, and it's just you tap it, and you put X 1/1 Goblin tokens, creatures where X is the number of goblins you control. Hence why having a lot of goblins is pretty good. Plus it's a 3/3 for 4 mana, I'm not going to complain about that. Okay, the 5 drops. Clever Riot, just gives them double strike until end of turn. If my opponent doesn't have any creatures out and I'm attacking with a lot of guys, quite handy, deals double damage. 2 Chandra's Furies. It deals 4 damage to target player and 1 damage to each creature that player controls. For 5 mana, it's not that bad. And then 3 Turn to Slags. Just deal 5 damage to target creature if they're getting bigger creatures out. It's handy, and it destroys equipment on that creature. Now this is the biggest card that most mana costing card that I've put in this deck. It's a 7-drop and it's Rite of Ruin, and you choose an order of artifacts, creatures and lands, and each player then sacrifices 1 of the first type, 2 of the second and 3 of the third. Now I'll move on to the artifact that I put in. I only put 1 artifact in, and it's Vanguard Shield. Just gives it +3 in defense, 3 to equip, and it can block an additional creature, which is fairly good if I've only got weaker creatures out, because as you can tell it's not really a defensive deck, so it kind of will help against attacks from the opponent. So now my mana choice, I believe I've got 13 mountains, because it's only got a tiny bit of blue. 13 mountains. And 9 islands. So that's 22 lands, an artifact, quite a bit of creatures, a lot of red instants in that, and the blue stuff's just kinda, apart from Latch Seeker, it's all defensive to try and avoid being hit too hard myself. So hopefully by the time I get my Krenko Mob Boss out, I'll have, say, 3 goblins out, at least. And all I have to do is tap it, and I get 3 1/1s, and I've doubled the amount of creatures I've got out, and I can use that every turn. So the more goblin creatures I get out, the more 1/1 tokens I get out. So it's good for soaking up damage, overwhelming the opponent, taking a little bit of health off them at a time. So yeah, that's my, not is it, but it's is it colours. My goblin deck. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Yeah, please subscribe.